Hello EV fans, I'm Richard with EV4U Custom Conversions, and welcome to the first in a series of episodes featuring this 1973 Volkswagen Thing. You can see we've got it up on ramps, and we're ready to start working on this thing. But this is going to be like some that we see where there's actually going to be a little more to it than just the conversion. It needs a few other things. One, we had to kind of do a little work on the emergency brake so that it had one. So we got that working at least. And now, under quick inspection, we can see we've got a couple other issues. So another one of the issues that we notice right away is there's no throttle cable. The other is that the clutch cable doesn't seem to be hooked up. I mean, the clutch is just wobbling around. The throttle does the same. So we're going to have to pull that off the tunnel and see what the deal is. So these are things that are going to need our attention. We're also going to have to take a look at the ignition after we install the auxiliary battery in the front. We'll start taking a look at the 12-volt wiring and make sure that's operable and it's going to work. And of course, we're going to clean up this mess first. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this existing motor. We're going to pull out the controller and component board they have in here. This is a wooden controller board with the controller offset from that wooden board, so it's not heat sinked at all. So basically we're going to remove everything from the engine bay here and start over. Also, you know, there's no flywheel or clutch assembly in this setup, which those of you who have been following us know that we always use a clutch unless it's a direct drive system like you're going to see on the stainless steel Jeep. That is another series that's coming up. So anyway, I'm not going to bore you with you know, knuckle busting and all that, but we'll be back after we remove these components from the engine compartment. Well, here's the engine bay with the motor and that component board removed. So now we'll go through and kind of straighten up the wiring. You can see on the right side there quite a little rat's nest. We'll clean that up a little bit, and then we'll stick our net gain impulse 9 motor in there, and along with redoing the component board and so forth. Here's a shot of the mating side of the adapter where it mates to the transaxle. The adapter itself's not all that bad looking, but the coupler's not really to my liking. We might just spin this up on the workbench just to see what it feels like. See how smooth it runs and how straight it runs. Let's go take a look at the component board. So here's a shot of the component board. You can see the shunt here on the right, contactor, a fuse, the PV6 hot box on the left. So we're going to strip this thing down We'll reuse the throttle. We might reuse the shunt, although I think we'll use a smaller, physically smaller one that I have. And we've got another contactor we'll use. So anyway, strip that down and build up a new component board similar to what you've seen us do in the past, and more appropriate for this controller because it will act as a heatsink. And so we'll get rolling. Here's a shot of the original component board in the VW thing being disassembled. We've already removed the heavy cabling, and then next to it here is the Impulse 9 mounted on the workbench, getting ready to have the adapter, clutch and flywheel attached. Here's a shot of the motor with the adapter and the flywheel attached. This is a lightened flywheel. A couple important pieces to the conversion is your schematic diagram and the vehicle schematic diagram. We've relocated the auxiliary battery to the front of the vehicle. And also in the front here will be our DC to DC converter, our safety interlock, and the charger. For our conversion components, we need both a 12-volt unswitched source, in other words 12 volts from the battery that's on all the time. That will run our JLD404, for instance. And then we need switched 12 volts. In other words, when you turn on the ignition, we then have a 12 volt source that's switched with the ignition, and that's what will turn on our controller and so forth. So when the ignition is turned on, we have a little indicator light that indicates that the key is on, since there's not going to be anything to hear on this conversion. And there was a blank in the dash here where there was an amp gauge. It was a 400, 0 to 400 amp gauge. This is a 500 amp system. The JLD404 will give us the amps. And so we replaced that with a 12 volt gauge, which allows us to monitor our auxiliary battery 12 volt system as well as the DC to DC converter. We know if that's working or not also by using this 12 volt gauge. And next to it was a gauge that came with the vehicle when we received it, and it's pack voltage, and it is up to 160 volts, which exceeds the pack that we'll be using. When fully charged, we'll be at 154 volts. So that will work. And so that's what we've done so far, is just wired up a few of these things, installed a power relay so that when the ignition is turned on, it sends power to our fuse block, and installed these the indicator light and the gauge. Another thing that we've done off camera was we gave the thing a bath. It's much more pleasant to work on a car that's clean than one that's dirty, and so this had come up from Southern California and had a little road grime on it and so forth, so we gave it a bath. Here we are with the motor for the VW thing. This is the Impulse 9 motor out of our Carmen Ghia, along with the one-piece billet aluminum adapter coupler. It's got brand new brushes in it, got brand new lightened flywheel and new clutch components, pressure plate and friction disc. So let's run it up on the workbench and see how she sounds. Nice and smooth. Sounds like $1 million. All right. Well, next we're going to be putting in the component board along with the associated components that will go on it. We'll mount and put that in first, and then we'll install the motor. But for now, this assembly is complete. We'll remove it from the workbench and have it ready to install in the vehicle. Stay with us.